Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. My name is Diana Maiden, and I'm very pleased to be your worship leader for today's service. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. All of you are welcome, and all of you are sacred. Whatever your past was like, whatever this present moment is like for you, we invite you to journey into the future together. Welcome also to everyone joining us via the magic of the internet. We are delighted you are here. This congregation is all of us together in person and online. If you are a new online visitor, you'll find a link to our visitor form in the video description, or send us an email to the office and let us know how you found us. I have a few additional announcements. Our annual meeting is in 2 weeks. We'll vote on next year's budget, elect new officers, and hear reports on the state of the church. But an annual meeting is not a great place to really go into depth with everyone's individual questions. So, today and next week, immediately after the service, in the Emerson room, which is right just down the hall, first room on the right, there will be a budget forum and a Q&A. It's a great chance to go into depth and to find out more about the financial plans for this coming year. Additionally, each month, we give half of our Sunday morning offering to a local, non-political, nonprofit serving Boulder County residents in alignment with our values. Those organizations are nominated by you and voted on at the annual meeting. This is the final week to submit nominations. Next year, we expect to give away approximately $15,000. So check your weekly email on how to nominate a local nonprofit. Finally, next Sunday from 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, we have an all-church workday. Did I say Sunday? I'm sorry. Saturday, thanks for the correction. Yeah. As we return from 2 years out of the building, there are all sorts of things to do to clean up our grounds. We will have food and drink and plenty to do for all ages and abilities. Thank you.
This Mother's Day. This Mother's Day is bursting with blessings. There are bird songs and new flowers, and we, all of you, this congregation, emerging from pandemic, making beautiful music, dedicating children. There's events going on like the Solar Farm tour that's happening and the Workday next Saturday, like John and Helene Bond, who are just opening up their home for an open house next weekend to get to know folks. I am definitely sneaking announcements into the call to worship. But my friends, what is on my heart this week is not any of those. What is on my heart is the leaked Supreme Court opinion that Roe versus Wade will be overturned, that we will return as a nation to an era of second-class citizenship for women who will no longer legally be people with rights over your own bodies. Our denomination has declared in nearly 24 Democratic votes over the last 50 years, votes up from our collected 1,000 congregations, not down from the top, but all of us together declared that bodies are sacred and that every person has the right to determine if and when and how they want to have children. And this commitment that we have is not arbitrary, is not a passing thing, is not mere politics, but is an expression of our deepest religious values. This faith proclaims that all individuals and communities have the right to self-determination, the right to safety, the right to resources that are necessary for health and sustainability. After the service today in the listening room, just in the back there, Reverend Barbara Mulfacey, who chairs our caring committee, who was a counselor for many, many years at Planned Parenthood, will offer space to anyone who needs space to talk or to grieve or just to be together in the bewilderment of this moment. And I invite you to join her if you'd like that time. I open our service this week with these words from my colleague, whom some of you know, the Reverend Gretchen Haley, who writes this: behind every angry impulse to turn over tables and swing the bat hard, crashing the car glass, or at least the impulse to comment repeatedly in all caps, there's a heartbreak. There is the unseen softness of longing to be known and loved, to be given a voice and a choice, to feel a part of something greater without losing yourself into this circle. And bring all of yourself, bring every untamed tear and every embrace, bring every mission of courage and love held deep in your chest. Bring every hope for our children and the world we want to give them, and grief at the gap between those two things. Bring your joy at spring's abundance and your gratitude for rain, and remembering the movement of partners and ancestors, living and dead, the circle who journey with us and call us to keep going and to keep loving and to keep working for it. Will you rise in body or in spirit and sing together? As we gather on this Mother's Day, we call forward the Bailey Leslie family, whose child is to be dedicated in the love of this congregation. Please come on up. Welcome, welcome. Our children need us. And through this ritual of dedication, we, parents, family, friends, congregation, we pledge to share in the formation of this child. We need our children. They have so much to teach us about the mystery and the wonder of life, and they shape us. We bless our kids by welcoming them into the love of our community. They bless us by sharing the ever-unfolding landscape of their lives. And in that spirit of love and giving, we enter the sacred rite of passage.
As we dedicate this child into our community, he will receive a white rosebud with the thorns removed, for we are here to protect him from the dangers of life until he grows and is ready to face them on his own. It is a symbol of our protection and the love and our promise to offer our wisdom and support as he reaches for the stars. And if you know this one, you know he loves to reach for stars. The rose will be dipped in our community water, which includes water gathered from our water communion ceremonies for the last 40 years.
It's been sanitized. Water, this water, all water, is the source of life, and it is a symbol of purity. It represents our connection with this church community, with each other, with the earth, and with the power of nature. I know, isn't it? I'm going to hang on to it for just a minute, okay? So I'm dipping it in the water here in just the right spot. Owen Randall Leslie Bailey, I welcome you to the fellowship of life, and we dedicate you to the service of love and truth and justice. We're going to give you a blessing, and I'm going to touch the rose on your head and on your lips and on your heart, and that may be a little weird because I just dipped it in the water and your hands too, but I want you to know what's coming, okay? So here we go. May your thoughts be wise. Excellent, excellent. May your lips speak the truth. May your heart know love. And may the works of your hands be blessed all the days of your life.
Stay here. Stay here.
Not done with y'all yet.
You're getting off easy, I know. But now it's our turn, because now we are coming together as community to bless him and to promise that we are coming to show up for him and to be here for him in every way possible. So first, I have a question for your parents. Is that okay, Owen? Yes. Okay, here we go. Parents, do you promise to love and comfort, guide and support Owen, and teach him to walk in the ways of love? I know it's a hard question. And now, are there any other children in the room today? Most of our children come at the 11 o'clock or the 9 o'clock, so okay, that's okay. Our kids will pledge at our next class. Okay. So would all of the adults in the room please stand if you would like? And I have a question for you. Do you promise to share your gifts with Owen and to support his parents as they endeavor to nurture him? If you will, please say, "We do." We do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Please join me all together in this blessing. We'll say together in unison as we receive Owen into the community with deep affection. May we celebrate with you when life brings you joy and delight. May our love comfort you when you feel alone and afraid. May our wisdom guide you when you feel disheartened and confused. May this community always be a sanctuary, a safe and a holy place where you know you belong and you're free to be your truest self.
Even when you're wearing a mask.
This is our blessing now and always. Amen. And if there are any kids, you can head on to your class now.
If you are joining us online and have a candle or a chalice nearby, please get ready to light it. We invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, the street or the neighborhood or what city, if you're joining us from outside of Boulder County. And now, for those of us in the room, I'd like to invite Nicole and Matt Ball, who are going to provide this morning's chalice lighting.
Good morning. I am Matt Ball. You may know me as sometimes playing mandolin with the Chancellor Cats over there.
And I am Nicole Ball. Our theme this month is nurturing beauty, and as this is Mother's Day, the topic that leapt to mind immediately was how we nurture our children. But I had recently been butting heads with one of our teenagers, as one does, and the whole Mother's Day theme was really not resonating until I began to think about how our parenting journey has been supported by this congregation. Because we're not parenting alone. One of the wonderful parts of being part of UUCB is that our children have been nurtured and mothered even by many in the congregation. You've shared your passions and insights with them and have cared for them. When we became members in 2015, Jan Wright, the director of faith formation at the time, provided a warm and welcoming presence for our kids. As the kids got older, youth coordinator Justin Beeger, who led a Dungeons and Dragons group at UUCB for several years, brought many of the youth together in community. He's had a big influence on our eldest, as has Dan Thomas, who led our youth in conversations both deep and silly. Our youngest daughter was very proud to be part of a poetry circle during the last summer retreat. She's benefited from life advice during fabulous feasts, and she's gotten book recommendations through conversations with UUCB members.
We also had the opportunity to nurture the elementary school children 2 years ago by teaching a few of the first religious education classes before we had the pandemic shutdown. We enjoyed the opportunity to get to know some of the kids in the congregation. In one springtime class, we nurtured beauty together by planting seeds. I'm happy to report that the avocado seed that we planted is still going strong. And when we look at it, we reflect with gratitude on our opportunity to help nurture UUCB's youth. On this Mother's Day, we light this chalice in honor of the people who have nurtured us, our children, and others in this congregation.
Thank you, Nicole and Matt. That was wonderful. We now invite all of those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we all say aloud together our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
invite you to come into a place of stillness and of centering, to sit in a way that you feel comfortable, that you feel grounded, and to begin by all taking a breath together. And another, slower, deeper down. Part of the work that we practice in gathering each week is that centering work, that slowing down, that remembering that we are not the 10,000 thoughts that swirl through our heads, that we are not our to-do lists or our job titles, that we are not our fears and anxieties, though all of these things have their place within us. Part of our work each week as we gather is to root ourselves. And I think after that soaking rain of the last week, the trees hungrily sending roots further down into the soil, drinking up the water in the dark. And that's our work too, to send our metaphorical roots down into that source bigger than any of us, unknown and unseen, which nonetheless supports us, feeds us so that we can survive the dry seasons. In that spirit of invitation to stillness, of invitation to silence, we'll be together for 7 breaths in silence. Amen. I think sometimes that work too, being together in silence for 7 breaths, is also the practice of not counting up or counting down. Not being in that time of silence as a bridge, as a destination, as something that you're moving through. But hopefully in that stillness, to find the place very simply of being here now. Each week in the service, we set aside time in ritual to remember and to lift up the joys and the sorrows of our lives, to remember that our own private cares and excitement, our triumphs and our failures, are not in the end private, but just different shapes of the same joys and worries that everyone else around us holds. And so in just a moment as the music begins, I'll invite you to come forward and to take a stone from the bowl, to feel the weight of it in your hand, to feel the coolness of it that your body's heat goes into. And let that be your joy and your sorrow. And then to place it into the dirt, the sacred earth, the land of the Ute and Arapaho people, to symbolize the way that your joy and sorrow takes its place among everyone else's. None of us alone, all of us held in the embrace of something larger than any of us. This week in particular, we lift up Barbara Mulfacey and Barbara Richards, who attended yesterday the memorial service for Rebecca Struick at Fraser Meadows. She was a longtime UUCBer. And we lift up with joy Judith King, who is slowly recovering from knee surgery, remembering the bit-by-bit incremental pace of change. Please come forward.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe out. Okay, ready? 2, 3. May the beauty before me open my eyes to see. May the beauty above and below me set my soul free. May the beauty inside me wake me up to feel the beauty between you and me is real. May I be complete within my open circle. May I be willing to see Standing in the center of my circle, I am solid on the ground, and I know I'm not alone. May the beauty before me open my eyes to see. May the beauty above and below me set my soul free. May the beauty inside me wake me up to feel the beauty between you and me is real. May I be complete within my open circle. May I be willing to see some hope in a broken world. May I be like this tree, standing in the center of my circle. I am solid on the ground, and I know I'm not alone, and I know I'm not alone.
Share a story with you called The Other Way to Listen. It starts like this. It starts, I used to know an old man who could walk by any cornfield and hear the corn singing. Now, I'm going to immediately pause and say, this story may be fiction, but when I lived in Minnesota, I talked with people who grew up on farms who told me that in the middle of summer, when the weather was just right, you could go out and lay in the middle of a cornfield and hear the corn growing, not the wind moving through it, but the sound of the corn growing itself. I used to know an old man who could walk by any cornfield and hear the corn singing. Teach me, I'd say, when we passed on by. I never said a word while he was listening. Just tell me how you learned to hear that corn. And he'd say, it takes a lot of practice. You can't be in a hurry. And I'd say, I have the time. He was so good at listening, once he heard wildflower seeds bursting open and beginning to grow underground. That's hard to do. He said he was just lucky to have been up there in the canyon all by himself after a rain. He said it was the quietest place he had ever been. And he stayed there long enough to understand the quiet. I said, I bet you were surprised when you heard it. He said, no. It seemed like the most natural thing in the world. Another time, he heard a rock kind of murmur good things to a lizard. I was there. We saw the lizard sunning on a rock. And of course we stopped, and the old man said, I wonder how that lizard feels about the rock that it's sunning on. I wonder how the rock feels about the lizard. He always asked himself hard questions that, take a while to answer. So we leaned against another rock, and a long time passed. And then he said, did you hear that? They like each other just fine. I said, yeah, I didn't hear anything. And he said, sometimes everything being right makes a kind of a sound. Like just now, it wasn't much more than a good feeling I heard from that old rock. Were you surprised to hear it? I always asked this question. He said, not a bit. Most natural thing in the world. He told me of how a friend of his once heard a whole sky full of stars when she was 7. And then later on, when she was 83, she heard a cactus blooming in the dark. I said, I wonder why most people don't hear this. He said, well, it takes a long time to listen for something that important. I said, I'll take the time, but you have to teach me. And he said, well, I would if I could, but the thing is, you have to learn it from the hills. You have to learn it from the ants and the lizards and the weeds and the prairie dogs and things like that. They do the teaching around here. I said, okay, give me one clue how to start. And so he said, do this. Go get to know one small thing as well as you can. Don't start with a mountain. Don't even start with a pond. Start with one pine cone. Start with one dry weed. Start with one blue jay. I said, okay, I'm gonna take a sandy wash up that way. And he said, well, he started with one tree. Every morning of his life when he was little, he climbed a cottonwood and sat there listening. And he told me it was worth the time. He said, trees are very honest, and they don't care much for fancy people. And he said he doesn't know of anything he ever did in his life as important as sitting in that tree. He said, you have to respect the thing that you're listening to, the tree, the hill, the lizard, or you won't hear it. If you think you're better than the tree, it's got nothing to say to you. Well, I listened to all of this, and nothing really worked. I thought there must be something wrong with me, because when I would go for a walk, all I heard was wind and quail and coyotes, mourning doves, things anyone could hear, right? So I almost gave up trying. But of course, I went on walking in my hills. And in fact, I used to sing to them a lot. I thought that since they wouldn't sing to me, I'd sing to them. And the day I'm telling you about now, I was singing, and the whole song was this. Hello, hills. Kind of repeated like a refrain over and over. This was after I'd been away from them for 5 days, and I'd missed them. 5 days away from my hills. I went out earlier than usual. And you know how everything's new at sunrise. Well, those hills were looking new. And I was just walking where I always walk. But that morning, I kept thinking as I went, here I am. And whatever way I went, that was the right way to go. And I stood at the top where I always stand, looking down, singing my song, Hello, Hills. And thinking to myself and knowing in myself, I'm here right now. And then suddenly, I wasn't the only one singing. The hills were singing too. I stopped. I didn't move for an hour or more. I'd never listened so hard in my life. And their kind of singing isn't loud. It's not any sound you can explain. It's not made with words. You can't write this down. All I can say is it came straight up from those rocks, from out of that dirt. It came straight up from the cottonwoods. It moved around like the wind, like the oldest sound in the world. And all I can say is I was standing in the middle of the sound at 7 o'clock in the morning, just thinking, here I am. And thinking, listen. And not even being surprised. It was the most natural thing in the world. In my high school freshman earth science textbook were 2 photos of the same hillside taken 30 years apart. In the top photo, you've got a walking path and a hill that goes up with a row of straight saplings pointed up at the sky. And in the second picture, decades later, the hillside had flowed downwards. Now the path was half covered. And now the hillside was a little more level, and now the trees, instead of going up and down, you could see how their trunks went out to the side and bent up toward the light, the way that as the hill moved, they had tilted and leaned themselves back up towards the sky again. The dirt was in motion at a pace much, much too slow to observe, quarter of an inch a year. A slowness that then needed 2 photos decades apart to make visible. But the same kind of slowness of buds unfurling, the same kind of slowness as the cottonwood leaves just starting to think about coming out on the trees this week. Imperceptibly slow, but transformed from one week to the next. It's the same kind of slowness of the earth rotating. So we stand out under the night sky and imagine the stars fixed, but if you can watch it in time lapse, or if you can slow yourself down enough and pay attention and listen and be where you are, you can see the stars passing. And we're on a tilt-a-whirl, on one of those whirling cups rides at Disneyland through the universe. This landscape and world around us is changing, usually so slow we don't see it. But you return to a place you haven't been in a long time. Maybe that's 20 years, maybe that's 5 days away from the hills that you love. And you see the difference if we slow down enough to see what is right in front of us, the beauty before us. Von Ogden Vogt, a Unitarian minister almost a century ago with a wonderful name and very firm ideas about the right way to do everything, he said that a worship service must begin with the act of paying attention. He said, and I'm transliterating his much more formal writing, he said, you go in to make a deliberate turning away of your mind and intention and awareness, a turning away from all things as many toward all things as one. That is the act of attention that you're doing, which you can do anywhere, is to shift from seeing the world around you as this disparate and separate cacophony and menagerie of experience, and instead to see this world and all the people in it, all of us too, as interwoven, as connected, as a single fabric all together, the one. He said, we go to church to pay attention. We pass through a door of leaving behind where the pressures of practical affairs and the monotony of daily labor and the lure of pleasures, even the weight of responsibilities, drop away as we seek to be refreshed and restored. That's why we gather in song. That's why we light a chalice to focus. It's slowing down to be here now. Not because there's something special imbued in the walls of this place, not because this is different than the rest of life, but merely because we come into this house and change our own experience. We practice it not in order to have an hour set aside from the rest of the week, but in order to bring some of that spirit into the rest of the week. So that on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, when you are sitting in traffic on 36, some little spark in the back of mind says, okay, be here now. Don't take this time as if it's something to pass through. Don't use it as a countdown or a count up towards what comes next, but be in that moment. The Universalist minister Clarence Skinner, at about the same time Von Ogden Vogt was expressing his opinion, said most of our life is spent in narrow segments, and our horizons are hemmed in by kitchen walls and office desks, hemmed in equally by narrow prejudices of race and class and creed. He says in religion, these partialisms, these broken fragments of life are lifted into a vast and profound oneness. And this old sense of oneness, the unity of experience, of our shared humanity and shared universe, it has many paths. We talk about this in all sorts of ways. But it emerges, our experience of the hills singing back to us again, emerges in unlikely moments, emerges when we slow down enough to live in heart time, when we take the invitation to set aside the to-do list, to experience the world on its own terms in that moment. The first of our 6 sources is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of spirit, moves us to an openness of the forces that create and uphold life. That is, when we tell the story of what it is we belong to, that direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder is a part of what we belong to. Not like you belong to Costco, not like you belong to the gym, right? But a Unitarian Christian friend said to me years ago, when he was explaining what does it mean to him to be Christian, he said, I belong to that story, which I found such a lovely way to say it. The organizing idea, the central metaphor, the idea and hope that calls them back into their best selves when they fall. It's not that that's the story you each have to belong to. I don't know that it's the story that I belong to. But the work is to find that. And we, all of us, belong to the story of the universe, the story of an interconnected web of life and existence. We are little bits of the universe looking back at itself, not separate from the earth, but connected. Each day, the choice presents itself to open the door into that story or to close it. And it's not that you're like bad and a failure if you close it. You're a human being. This is what we do most of the time, is not pay attention to any of that. Most of the time, the choice is to ignore the beauty of the world for the 10,000 other demands on life. But the work is to go looking for it. The work is not to stay trapped in our heads, but to discover this larger life in which we move. The work is to silence and slow ourselves down enough to listen to the voice that speaks, to that still small voice that speaks in our heart or our spirit. The poet David Wagner writes this. He says, "Stand still," this called lost. Stand still. The trees and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes, listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again saying, here. No 2 trees are the same to raven, no 2 branches are the same to wren. And if what a tree or bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Amen. You rise in body or in spirit. Let's sing together.
This, our musical response is in the heart song tradition. Is my microphone on? And the words are, I am finding my way back to now. And it begins with a very simple and repetitive mantra that I hope you will allow to become something that just centers you. And I like to say, at the time the repetition begins to feel boring is when this new level can emerge. And you are free to create harmonies and open the experience of this song to our whole community here as we then take the mantra and create something of our own with it. And I don't know if this is on. I feel like it's not. But you can hear me, right? There you go. It's more for the online people. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now. I am finding my way. I am finding my way. I am finding my way back to now.
This month, our offering goes to Together, formerly known as Attention Homes. Diane Ewing will share more about Together with us.
Good morning. Together, assist youth experiencing homelessness. Formerly, the group was called Attention Homes. They tell us together we can create community where every young person is valued, empowered, and safe. They have a building on North Broadway, which provides emergency shelter and daytime programming. They also have a house in South Boulder that provides a place to live for young people whom the court system has removed from unsafe homes. And you may have noticed the new building on Pine Street where the Methodist Church had their parking lot. This is Together's building with small apartments for young adults who are building a new life on their own. Together's office is also in the building, as well as services for those living in the apartments. A few years ago, before COVID, I was doing errands in Longmont where I live, and I had just gotten in my car when a young woman approached and asked if I could tell her where the nearest bus stop was. By the way, buses are free in Longmont. I did not know of a stop nearby, so I asked her where she needed to go, and I gave her a ride to her destination. She was rather disheveled and clearly had not had a shower for a long time. I learned that she had hitchhiked to Longmont from Oklahoma with her boyfriend. She had gone to her grandmother's home in Longmont, but her grandmother had turned her away. Her mother and younger sister were in Longmont, but they were living in the mother's car. Mom had a job, and her sister went to Silver Creek High School. They could not be much help. The boyfriend was addicted to drugs, and he stole the little money she had. She broke up with him, but she was very hungry. She had managed to connect with someone who would take her to Attention Homes in Boulder, now together. But not until evening, after that person got out of work. I gave her some money for food, and she met with her sister after her sister got out of school. She was so lucky that there was a place for teens experiencing homelessness.
I invite you to give as generously as you are able. You can make your donation now using the link posted in the video description, by sending a check to UUCB, or scanning the QR code with your mobile phone. And our ushers are coming down. Thank you for your generosity. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
It's good to be together this morning. Folks online, there is a Zoom room for a time of online fellowship and conversation. those gathered in person will do the same thing in the Sky Room with coffee and food as well. We closed this morning with the reminder, the intention to remember, to be here, wherever here is. And that's how we get ourselves unlost. Amen. We rise in body or in spirit. We'll close in song.
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way.